Hey, Caleb, check out my poll.
What?
What? I'm just talking about my wiener.
Oh, my gosh.
What? I'm eating a hot dog.
Football.
You sick son of a... Just get us into it, for God's sake.
Now that we have that out of the way, welcome to your new life in a fantasy football world, the family show that all these families have come to know and love. Thank you so much, everyone, for your support. We have a great announcement. Last week, we hit 200 followers on Twitter, and I don't know what happened, but we just hit over 600 followers on Twitter. All thanks to
Caleb.
Some kind of magical force. That's all. Thank you so much for everyone who follows, for everyone who listens. We have had some minor feedback, which is better than nothing. So thank you for that as well.
Which is major feedback for us.
We plan on talking about a little bit of news. We have a question that comes in from Instagram. Back into the wide receiver rankings. And covering another couple of teams from the AFC South. The Texans and the Colts. It's going to be a good one.
I hope so.
And, like never before, we have the old, dirty curmudgeon that you've come to know and love. Yeah, that's right. He still doesn't have pants. Yeah, he's all oiled up. Yeah, where are his hands? You'll have to just find out.
See the intro.
Westmore.
Thanks, Caleb, for that always insulting introduction. Just a reminder, you can follow us on Twitter or Instagram at LifeInAFFW. We would appreciate it. If you have any questions that you would like to be aired and answered by us, we are just chomping at the bit for that. So feel free to let us know what's on your mind. Caleb, can I address the polls I was talking about earlier, you sicko?
I'm kind of afraid to let you, but I don't have a choice. You have your own microphone.
I was just going to say, you and me got in a little conversation about Oreos last week, so I put it to the people. And the obvious choice was made of the Oreo varieties that double stuff was far and away the victor at over half the votes. We all knew that was going to happen. I just had to get some confirmation of the sanity of our listeners, so I tried a mega stuff tonight. Pretty good. I could not find the ones that you sent me a picture of, Caleb, which are the...
That's what I was wondering.
They're limited edition. I don't know where to find them. What are they called? The most stuffiest stuff? Something stupid.
The most stuffiest.
The most stuffiest cookie in the world. The most...
I feel like that's something you might have to order on Amazon or something, but I think you might have to put the money out and just order a package.
Ooh.
Just
Amazon, the most stuffed... They spelled stuff wrong.
So for anybody who doesn't know, there's an Oreo out there called the Most Stuff. If you think double stuff is good, if you think that mega stuff is good, okay, apparently there's something out there called the Most Stuff. It's basically 10 times cream compared to the cookie. Mm-hmm. It looks ridiculous. It's basically just a white creamy mess. I don't know where this is going. So that's where those Oreos are. So I'm curious as to how many people have actually tried the Most Stuff. And what does this have to do with fantasy football? Well, you know what? We want the players with the most stuff. And that's my only way of relating it to fantasy football.
I'm just reading reviews right now on Amazon. Don't order them on Amazon. I'm seeing pictures and they're just like cookies, like crushed cookies completely. It's surprisingly, like the reviews are 50% are 5 stars and 30% are 1 star. So it's a grab bag. You don't know what's going to happen. Much like fantasy football, your expectations may be disappointed in the end, or you might be pleasantly surprised.
See, everyone, this is relevant. Yeah, you clicked on the right podcast. We got this nice and tight.
Yes.
We cover everything ranging from fantasy football to Oreo styles.
To midnight snacks.
To midnight snacks and apparently hot dogs. So
I'll be reviewing hot dogs next week.
News is light. But a couple of things I want to actually ask you about. We did not have the time to talk about this week. The ever appalling 49ers backfield.
Appalling.
3 running backs on that team are dealing with injuries and recovery right now, with no clear timeline as to their return. Between Matt Breida, between Raheem Mostert, between Jerick McKinnon. And so it leaves Tevin Coleman. I mean, clearly there's a reason why they brought all these guys in, why they signed Tevin Coleman to a big deal. Does this, for the moment, clear up the 49ers backfield for you, or do you still have to wait and see how the preseason plays out?
Doesn't really clear up anything for me, because even though they're not fully recovered, they will be. And at the latest, early on in the season. So why would you overdraft those guys just for maybe 2 weeks of a workhorse Tevin Coleman, and then the gang comes in and screws up everything? Honestly, though, obviously, I'll just say this: the one thing that would make that backfield appealing to me is there was Matt Breida trade rumors. Now they've died down since the draft, but the Niners were willing to trade him. If for some reason he'd find himself on another team, well, then I just might lend an ear to that backfield and Tevin Coleman, because I think they're very. I think Tevin Coleman's very talented. I would take him in a heartbeat if there wasn't so many stinking running backs there.
Yeah. I mean, obviously the problem with Matt Breida is he's had a long injury history of not being able to stay healthy at all, barely through any game. He always comes back, but he doesn't play a full game. The biggest part of the rumor of his trade was going to the Eagles, but of course they drafted, pretty highly drafted Miles Sanders. So, yeah, that's hard to say whether or not he's going to go anywhere, but that would help. Julian Edelman signs a 2-year extension with the Patriots. To me, it solidifies their belief in him as being that number 1 target this year for Tom Brady. For me, at least, this raises his value. He's already a phenomenal target hog. And so going into this season, I think he's going to continue to be that way if he stays healthy as well.
Yeah, I mean, they couldn't give him much more in 2 years. He's getting old. Like, he's older than I thought. He's like 33 years old.
Yeah, this might be his last contract.
I mean, he picked up where Wes Welker left off. I'm sure there's someone in the works, or there will be soon, to take over for him. Just looking for a tiny white guy to run over the middle, that's all.
Yeah. Carson Wentz. News came out that he has had no limitations, or will have no limitations for the offseason. Looks like he'll be fully healthy going into the season. I'm not a big believer in Carson Wentz. I'm sure he's going to be a fine quarterback to have.
A mighty fine.
You can get late. You know, you'll see in the next week or two where we have him ranked. I don't know if he'll fall into our top 10 or not, but we'll find out next week if he does. You know, so not much else there. But I would like to get into a question coming in from Instagram from Mr. Jack Williams. He asks a very poignant question.
Poignant? Can you spell that?
Yes. Poingant, maybe? I don't know.
No, you're not even close.
At what point are players you don't like too valuable to pass up on draft day? So a player you're like, I'm not drafting him. I don't like him. I don't want him. And he falls and falls and falls. And he's sitting there staring at you. At what point? Okay, let's put it this way, Wes. What's a player you do not like going into this season?
Ooh, I don't like. Oh, you put me on the spot like this.
Anybody?
How about I don't like
Derrick Henry?
Derrick Henry. I hate Derrick Henry.
Okay. In my overall rankings right now, I have Derrick Henry going in the middle of the 3rd round. Okay? Middle of the 3rd round. Derrick Henry staring at you middle of the 3rd round, you pass on him because you decide, I'm going to grab a wide receiver. I'm going to grab Tyler Lockett instead. Bam, you got Tyler Lockett. He keeps falling. Comes back around 12 picks later. because this is a Magic world where you go every 12 picks and there's no snake. You're at 54 and you're like, you know what? I want Sammy Watkins instead. How far does Derrick Henry have to go before you say, I have to take Derrick Henry?
When Derrick Henry is one of my backups. I think, like, this happened to me last year. I went into the season last year saying, I don't want Rex Burkhead on any of my teams. It is a mess of a backfield. They just drafted Sony Michel. I don't want him on any of my teams. And when I drafted, I ended up picking him as like my second to last pick because you never know in New England. And he did have a few good games the year before that. And, you know, Belichick could get him some time. I mean, it's just as you get further in the draft, the risk becomes significantly less and less. And for someone like that, when you get to the point where if it doesn't work out, you took him at a point where it's not going to break your heart to cut ties with him. Like, if I take Derrick Henry in the third and he stinks for 8 straight weeks, it's still going to be hard for me to cut him because I use a third-round pick on him. If for some reason he falls to the 8th round and he's my 4th running back, yeah, okay, sayonara, dude. So I think you got to weigh that out. Like, Alex Collins was another one last year. I didn't really like him at all. But when you're in like the 7th, 8th round and you're staring at what we thought was the starting running back on a running team, the Ravens, it's like, well, you know, your gut feeling says don't pick them, but I mean, you got to look at the value there. So, yeah, it's a risk reward kind of thing of what round
it's hard
you're
on
in.
draft day.
Yeah.
I kind of like sometimes the tactic of, okay, this player is falling. I'm going to grab him now. Maybe week 1 he has a decent enough game that I can then turn around and trade him for something more valuable that I like.
Trade bait. Good old trade bait.
This guy, and you can use that. Hey, this guy had 3rd round value. Come on. And look, he performed great his first game, and I still hate him, so please take him. That could be something. That's hard to say. It's for sure. There's some players that
I got to tell you the ultimate. I got to tell you the ultimate last year. And let me just go over something. From you and me, Caleb, up to the experts working at ESPN, no one can truly predict what these guys are going to do this season. These are all assumptions, except for, of course, Caleb.
Yeah.
So
very good at this.
Yes, he's a very good guesser. I'm thinking of a number between 1 and 3. What is it? Go.
1.
See?
Yes.
It was green. Now you got me all off with your mind games. What was I trying to... Oh, so no one really knows what these guys are going to do, right? It's just assumptions going off of stats and blah, blah, blah. Oh, man, I'm totally losing my mind.
Anyway, we were talking about Oreos and hot dogs.
No. I know what I was going to say. Okay, so no one knows what's going on with him. But last year, there's one guy I wanted nothing to do with. My gut said, I hear he's throwing picks in practice. He's all over the place. He's not consistent. And this is in practice, in shorts. Mr. Patrick Mahomes. Okay? So the draft goes on and on and on. And there's a couple quarterbacks there. And it's like, you know what? You just go for it. Because we don't know what's going to happen, and I was more than happy to say I was wrong on him because he led me into the playoffs. So, yeah, get your pride out of the way. You might not want to draft somebody, but you'll know when it's a good place in the draft to just go for it and see what happens.
Yeah. So, to answer your question,
I got to put this alcohol down. I can't even keep my thoughts straight.
If it's a good player and they fall, just take them. I mean, it's unless you really have something against them. If it turns out to be Tyreek Hill gets to play and you morally can't accept him, totally understand. But let's move on. Guess what we have now?
What do we have?
Ow,
I don't know what's going on, but I'm digging it. Rank him. Do you know what that reference was, Caleb?
No, I don't.
It was Rack Him from Braveheart.
Oh,
classic movie. Absolutely classic.
that is a good movie. I've only actually watched the movie one time, probably because it's so long, but it's a good movie.
Are you serious? You only see it one time?
I've seen it one time.
But you still understand the rack him phrase?
Yeah, because it's in a GIF.
Because it's in a GIF.
Our wide receiver rankings.
Okay, I'm sorry.
Last week we covered our 1 through 10. If you didn't get to listen to that, go back last week, check it out. This week we started our number 11, and the first two, by the way, we totally agreed on. So number 11 comes in a Mr. AJ Green. Comes in at number 11 in our consensus. Has some injury concerns. Wes, what do you have to say about our man, AJ Green?
He makes me feel old because I remember when he was drafted in the league, and now the guy is 30 years old. So, yeah. And he's going to be 31 when the season starts. Oh, shut up. Sorry, everyone. I left the sound on my computer. Shut up, ad.
Maybe it won't come through.
So he pretty much has been really consistent since the day he came into the NFL. Started his career with 5 straight 1,000-yard seasons. Last year, now as he is getting older, he's still contributing in a big way. He had 9 targets a game last year. Andy Dalton is not the best quarterback, but he has proven he can be highly successful with Andy Dalton, so that is not a concern at all for me. What is a concern is, and I think that's why he's where he is in our rankings, he's 31. He will be 31, and with that age, 2 of the last 3 years, he's missed significant time because of injury. Is that a coincidence, or is that a sign of things to come? I don't know, but that little risk that comes with him now is why he isn't a top 5 receiver anymore. If he plays 16 games, I mean, he's still talented enough to do what he does, but it's that injury, it's the age, and in the emergence of Tyler Boyd, it has everyone feeling a little uneasy in the fantasy world.
Yeah, and this is all I'll say. His 16-game pace last season put him on pace for 81 catches. On the season, because he did play for 9 games, around 1,000 yards, basically what he's been doing the last 3 seasons. Is that what you want out of your wide receiver 1? Okay. He's coming at 11 in our rankings, and I was uneasy about putting him there just because of his injury possibility and the fact that, you still have to rely on a quarterback that may get it to him. 2016, he had 4 touchdowns. 2017, 8. Not bad. 2018, 6 touchdowns. Am I going to be mad if I have just over 1,000 yards, 80 receptions, and 7 touchdowns? No. That's a great starter on your team. It's nobody that's going to win you every week. But it's AJ Green. He could have a monster season where he's getting, 130 targets, but he has never had over 100 receptions in a season. So I don't expect that to happen if you want him to be a reception machine. If you're playing in a PPR, that's tough. Keenan Allen comes in at number 12, our consensus number 12. Keenan Allen, he's a tricky guy, man. He played a lot of years where a lot of people drafted him and he got injured a couple years in a row pretty quickly. Played only half a season in 2015. Played in 1 game in 2016. Came back with almost 1,400 yards, 2 touchdowns. Last year, 97 receptions, 1,200 yards, 6 touchdowns. Is he, he's still the number 1 in that offense, still has Phillip Rivers throwing to him. If he can still be healthy, I can honestly see him outperforming AJ Green in that matter of fact, and getting you a wide receiver 1 end to his season.
Yeah. Keenan Allen, it's a health. I mean, I remember in 2014, he had a decent year, and I was all in on 2015, and he screwed me because he got hurt and played half the year. So the next year, you know what? I'm a forgiving dude. I'll draft him again. He played like a half a game that year. Screwed me again. So I said,
not great.
I said, you screw me once, that's on you. You screw me twice, that's on you. So I drafted him the next year. And he came through finally. So all is well between me and Keenan. He had a great year in 2017. Last year, he had a pretty decent year. I mean, he almost had 100 receptions, almost 1,200 yards. The only thing that I don't like about him, and it's not I don't like about him. I mean, this is the reason why he's not ranked higher, is touchdowns. That's all. He hasn't caught more than 6 touchdowns since his rookie year. So is that a little concerning? It is. But no more Tyrell Williams, which, he was a downfield threat. So maybe him being taken away, that opens up more for Keenan Allen. I like him a lot, and I feel like, but like you said, at the end of the year, he might be putting top 10 receiver stats up or wide receiver 1 stat for your team. And I think if he stays healthy, getting the ball from a Hall of Fame quarterback, you'll be one happy rabbit.
Essentially just saying he's draftable.
Final conclusion, he's good at football.
Number 13, one of 3 Rams wide receivers that come in our top 25. Just a little tidbit of what's going to happen. That's pretty impressive for a team, by the way. 3 wide receivers in top 25 status. Robert Woods, he's your 15 and my 13. Comes in as the consensus 13. What can I say? Last year, I was not a believer in Robert Woods going into the season. You did mention before the season started last year that he piqued your interest getting away from the Buffalo Bills, and he did not disappoint. 130 targets, 86 receptions, 1,219 yards, 6 touchdowns. Some of that obviously came after Cooper Kupp went down, but he was still a very solid player. So getting the value, if you're the type of drafter that wants to take running back first, you can absolutely come back around and grab somebody like Robert Woods and be super happy to have him as your RB1 because he also throws in some rushes, by the way. 19 rushes and 157 yards and a touchdown last season. For a wide receiver, it's kind of nice having that little buffer of an extra 20-some points on the season just with some rushing, too.
That's what us in the biz call a bonus.
Very.
Bonafide is how I describe it. Bonuses, also known as boni. Robert Woods, man, piqued my interest. Did he ever? He did pretty well with Buffalo with no one else there. So he goes to the Rams, and aside from an injury in 2017, has had a really solid 2 years there. And by solid, I mean nice. He has now, like you said, it's a crowded wide receiver core. You have Cooper Kupp, you have Brandon Cooks, you have Robert Woods. So that makes it a little hairy because they're going to throw the ball a lot. But the thing that scares me, and when I say scared, it's not like it's like a minor scare. It's a team that thrives on spreading the ball around. He's never topped 6 touchdowns, which, if you like touchdowns, you might want to pay attention to that. But last year, he had a career high with 6 touchdowns. But even though it's a crowd wide receiver core, the last 2 years, he has led the team in targets. So that's why I think he goes above Cooper Kupp and Brandon Cooks. He's been targeted more than either one of those the last 2 years. So I like all 3 of those receivers, but if you're putting a gun to my crotch, Caleb, I'm going to pick Woods.
Yeah, he's going into his prime too. 27 for this season. That's a great age for a wide receiver. He's had now, this will be his 3rd season with the Rams, 2nd with Sean McVay. So it's a good place to be. I think that there's going to be a lot of success for all of the Rams receivers. I think Jared Goff is going to be competent enough to get them the ball. So
how's this for a teaser? Real quickly, I hate to screw up your segue. Todd Gurley, if it's as bad as some people suspect, maybe they don't run the ball as much. Maybe they throw the ball a little more. Maybe it goes to Robert Woods a little more. I don't know. Just sort of connecting the dots.
Another 30 targets spread to the wide receivers. I'll take that.
I'll take it all day.
Stefan Diggs comes in as our consensus 14. Wes, you have him right at 14, and I have him at 15. His counterpart, Adam Thielen, came in at 10 for us. Cooper Kupp, Stephon Diggs. What do you like about Stephon Diggs this year?
Stephon Diggs, man. I think out of that, between him and Thielen, he is obviously the more, how do I want to say it, skilled, but does not put up the best stats of the two. I like Stephon Diggs. He had a career year last year. Can I say that? Career year. He had 100 and
faster.
Almost career year. 100 almost
ruined it.
100. You do it.
Okay, career year.
Oh, yeah, saying it one time is only a flippin' breeze. Career year. That's why they say it 5 times fast, because it's like the 4th or 5th time that makes you look like a fool.
I'm what we call in this biz a jerk.
No argument here. So back to football. So
that's right.
Yeah, he had a career high last year in catches and yards. Catches 67% of his targets. He's not as efficient with those targets, though, as Thielen. I just have a bad feeling that Minnesota is going to this low-volume pass attack, more leaning on the running. And he always usually gets the number 1 cornerback whenever they play a team. So those are the reasons why I have him so much further down compared to Thielen. No more Thielen puns, Caleb.
I'm not.
I'm shaking over here.
Do you need to get your fix real quick?
No. Just not feeling it tonight. Ah! Bad baby. Okay. Yeah. God, poor Stephon Diggs. I'm not totally being a jerk to him right now.
Do you want me to take him?
No, I'll just give you a quick 30-second summary, which I probably should have done in the first place. Had a career year last year. Kirk Cousins did not do him many favors, so what he put out last year is pretty dang good. Where the offense is headed, Stephon Diggs, I'm not super high on him, but if Kirk Cousins shows up a little more than he did last year, I think he could beat last year's numbers. There, I made a whole 2 sentences without bringing up something irrelevant.
I totally agree. Will he repeat 100 receptions? It remains to be seen, obviously. 1,000 yards is certainly doable. 8 touchdowns, compared to his 9 last year. I think he's been pretty consistent with his touchdown percentage. Again, more time with Kirk Cousins is going to help him. Still a very young receiver, 25 years old. That's what I like about a lot of these guys is they're very young. If you're in a new startup dynasty league, you're going to have these receivers for a lot of years. Go for these younger guys. Mm-hmm. Next up, another Rams receiver. Number 15 is our consensus. Wes, you have him back at 18. I have him at 14. Mr. Brandon Cooks. Brandon Cooks has played on a couple different teams. Played on the Saints. Played on the Patriots. Has found a home the last year and this on the Rams, and he did not disappoint. 4 seasons in a row over 1,000 yards receiving with not a lot of receptions every year. Last year he had 80, year before 65, 78 the year before that, 84 the year before that. So he has a very long target. He's going deep. He's out there for a lot of big plays, which is great. It's nice if you're in a PPR to get more receptions, but Brandon Cooks, again, is a young guy on a very high-powered offense, and that's what you want more than anything. Like you said, if Todd Gurley, not much more needs to be said about Rams wide receivers that we haven't already said, but if Todd Gurley is that beat up and they're relying more on rookie running backs or backup running backs, then they're going to be passing it a lot, and so these players are going to eat. So I would be very happy having 2 out of these 3 Rams players on my team.
Yeah. Brandon Cooks, man, he is their deep threat. Last 4 years, he's had somewhere between 1,000 and 1,200 yards. Past 3 years, he beat his initial ADP, so that's looking good. Very consistent as season goes. If you look at his season stats, man, it's like 1,100, 1,100, 1,100, 1,200. Like, it's very consistent. That's what you're looking for. The only thing I hold against him hate to be Debbie Downer, man, but that consistency doesn't translate from game to game. It might translate from season to season, not game to game, because last year he had some massive games, 7 receptions, 159 yards, 10 receptions, 100 yards, and then you got these farts. 2 receptions, 50 yards, 3 receptions, 35 yards, 3 receptions, 22 yards. Just a little inconsistency, a little something I don't like when you have, if he's your number 1 receiver, if he's your number 2, doesn't sting as bad, but it's one of those guys that maybe in what's that kind of football called, Caleb? Best ball?
Yeah.
Which I wanted to talk to you about trying that out this year. But that's neither here nor there.
That's another conversation.
Yeah, preferably private. So yeah, he will explode for you for a good amount of the games, but then he will give you some duds. So just be aware of that. But when it goes as you looking for someone who's going to get you 1,200 yards at the end of the season, this guy's pretty much a lock every year.
Yeah, I like the points. I think I may listen to your argument there and drop him down my rankings a couple of spots, because there are obviously some ceiling concerns there, and with the team in general when you're relying on those long plays. But guess who comes up at number 16? You can't even guess.
Oh, I don't know. Isaac Bruce?
No, dummy.
Oh, the Rams.
Cooper Kupp.
Oh, gosh. Okay, yeah. I'm with you.
Comes in at number 16. And can I just say, if I know this guy is going to be really healthy going into the season, I'll immediately move him above the other 2 Rams receivers. He's coming in at our 16. Wes, you have him at 17. I have him at 16. He was on pace last season. He played technically 8 games, but he really played 7 games. He left early in one game and then came back and barely played in another. So in his 16-game pace, he would have had 92 receptions, almost 1,300 yards, and 14 touchdowns.
Ooh,
I don't know that is going to happen with this player, but let's say he regresses and he has 8 touchdowns, 1,200 yards, and 80 receptions. He could end up leading that team or being very close to Robert Woods as the number 1 wide receiver, if not better. He's obviously a favorite target of Jared Goff. I love Cooper Kupp. I'm sad that he's behind the other guys, but the unfortunate reason is because he tore his ACL, ending his 2018 season. And so we're just hoping that he will be on pace with his recovery.
Yeah, there's not much more I can say. You basically covered all my points with the guy. He, like you said, he has a great connection with Goff. He's Goff's favorite red zone target. He's when he's healthy, he's pretty dang consistent, man. I mean, he's like we were talking about, he's the anti-Cooks. Like last year in the games he played, he had at least 5 receptions in every game except one. And that one game, he had 4 receptions for 70 yards and a touchdown. So, not too shabby. Everyone just listen up. The only thing I'm a little wary about is the same thing you are. I mean, ACLs, we saw Carson Wentz, man. Like, he was basically the MVP if he'd have played a full season. And he had a rough go of it the following year. And when you're a wide receiver going over the middle, cutting, ACL is a big deal, so how he recovers from that is going to be a big deal on how he performs this year. Now, if he's fully healthy, I am 100% with you, Caleb. He goes above Cooks. He goes above Woods, just by a hair, and that's just because of whatever him and Goff got going on, man. They like each other.
Oh, yeah, and I like them.
And I like them back.
Honestly, if he's fully healthy, Goff goes even higher in my rankings, too.
Oh, yeah.
Number 17, Mr. Kenny Golladay, a bit of a surprise pop-up receiver last year. Wes, he's your 16 and mine 19. I'll throw out some stats, and then I'll let you talk about him since you favor him.
Okay, throw him at me.
Last season, 70 receptions, 1,063 yards, 5 touchdowns, concerning to me a little bit. Threw in a rush there. And the most notable thing is I'm looking on Pro Football Reference, and his nickname is Babytron. So we can leave now.
That's a bad thing.
What do you like about Kenny?
Old Kenny. He's not my favorite player. I mean, I have him ranked at 16. Maybe I should have ranked him a little lower, but I think if he's your second receiver on your team, you can feel pretty good about the potential there. He reminds me of DK Metcalf, just in the fact that he is a physical specimen, man. He is huge. He is fast. He's got all the physical tools to be a top 5 receiver in this league. But Golden Tate's not there anymore. Now, after Golden Tate was traded to the Eagles last year, he had some pretty big games. So that's something to like. What I don't like is after Golden Tate was traded, he had some pretty crappy games. Like against the Cardinals, he had 2 catches for 5 yards. When your wide receiver 2 does that, you get peeved, to put it nicely.
A little bit.
I think he's on a team that's almost like the Vikings when we were talking about Diggs, a team leaning towards the run now, trying to be a run-first team, which is not good for him. Stafford, man, I just don't think he's the same. I don't think he's going to turn it around either. I think his time in Detroit, the days are numbered. So you got inconsistent quarterback play. Your first-round pick was a tight end, T.J. Hawkinson. All those factors, you put them together, I'm not super excited about him. If I can have him as my number 2 wide receiver, okay, I feel all right about that. Not thrilled, but I'm content with it. So where I have him ranked, maybe it's a little high, but as a 16th overall receiver, for me, it's all right.
Yeah. If he goes into the season as the expected number 1 with Matt Stafford throwing to him, I don't blame you for taking him here at all. We'll start to run through these a little bit quicker. Tyler Lockett comes in at 18. Wes, you have him 19. I have him at 18. Why I love Tyler Lockett so much is he was the most efficient player in the universe last season. 57 receptions, almost 1,000 yards, and 10 touchdowns on those 57 receptions, which is crazy talk. Essentially a touchdown almost every 5 receptions, which is phenomenal. But they did end up, of course, losing Doug Baldwin in the season, which locks up Tyler Lockett as the number 1, even with DK Metcalf there. And even though the Seahawks are more of a run-first team, they are going to bomb it. They are going to throw it because they have a capable quarterback. So I like Tyler Lockett.
Yeah.
And I'm happy to have him there.
Yeah, I know you were a big Lockett fan. I read something the other day about like his season last year is like possibly the all-time most efficient wide receiver season of all time.
Yeah. And it's 81.4% catch rate.
Yeah, that's what I was going to say. Awesome catch rate, almost 17 yards a catch. Like you said, almost a touchdown every 5 receptions. As awesome as that is very hard to sustain that kind of production, absolutely, especially when you're thrown in as the undisputed number 1 wide receiver on your team now with Baldwin retiring. I like Lockett a lot, and like you said, they are run heavy. They got a couple running backs back there they feel really good about. But if we know anything about Russell Wilson, he thrives on broken plays, and it usually ends up with them friggin' bombing it down the field to Lockett. So I like Lockett, and I like him at this spot right here. Now, will people get more excited as drafts come closer and maybe inflate his ADP just because of the Baldwin retirement? I hope not, but probably. Yeah, they'll probably ruin it for everybody.
So we can basically skip over this next guy.
Your undisputed, possibly number 1 wide receiver at the end of the year.
Amari Cooper, and my hate for him is not. please I want everybody to know. I want him to do well.
It is so personal, you guys don't even know.
I just don't expect it to happen, and I hate how high he's being ranked. Amari Cooper is Amari Cooper. The same old Amari Cooper. Don't expect anything different. Ranked as our 19, Wes, you have him all the way up at 13, and I have him back at 29. I do, though, expect him to finish as a wide receiver, too. By the way, the same place he has finished for his entire career, never better than. Last 2 seasons, his best season with he had two teams last season, 75 receptions, 1,005 yards. Year before that, 680 yards, 1153, 1070. A lot of people have him going as a wide receiver 1, and I just don't buy it as such. I've said this a billion times, so I don't have to say anything more about Mr. Amari Cooper.
Yes, we all know how you feel, Caleb, and it's hard to argue with you. He has been inconsistent for the majority of his career, and he brought that inconsistency over to Dallas. He had 2 huge games, man. Huge games.
Huge.
I'm talking not small. And that was the and that was the majority of his production with Dallas. Now, in just 11 games with Dallas, he did put up almost 900 yards and 7 touchdowns. He has a great rapport with Dak. Now he's going to come into a full season prepared with the Cowboys, and I just feel like, he's their go-to receiver. They lost Cole Beasley. They brought back an old Witten. Like, who are you going to throw to? Like that Michael Gallup? He's all right, but I think Amari Cooper is going to be good. I think he's a high-end number 2, if I can get your blessing on that, Caleb. But like I said,
that's fine.
I'll allow it. Ezekiel Elliott is still the center of that offense. He will be. He will be as long as he's there, I feel like. But Amari Cooper, number 1 wide receiver, yeah, I like him as a high-end number 2.
That's okay. I do think Michael Gallup and some of those other players are going to step up and take his sunshine away. But
don't you take?
We'll take some quick takes at these last few.
Oh,
Tyler Boyd.
Quicker.
Okay, Tyler Boyd. Let me just say, we don't have to talk too much about his stats. He obviously thrived better last year when AJ Green was on the field, but he still finished very efficiently as a very good wide receiver, as a playable wide receiver every week. And I think that he could finish with the same stats that AJ Green finishes at. And when it comes to draft day, I'd be willing to bypass AJ Green and take Tyler Boyd at a later ADP.
Ooh.
Personally.
I'll make it quick, Caleb, because you're putting me on hyperspeed right now. His per game production, because he missed a few games, would have been better than Brandon Cooks last year, so keep that in mind. But on the other hand, it's hard for me to believe that him, Joe Mixon, and A.J. Green will all blow up and be starters with Andy Dalton at quarterback. So, got to balance the 2 out. Move along.
Yeah. Julian Edelman comes in at 21. Wes, he's your 25.
Yeah.
And my 17. It's to me, especially with this news about his getting the new contract, they believe in Julian Edelman. He and Tom Brady are best friends. Even if Tom Brady has more regression, he gets a lot of targets. 159 targets 2016. He was out 2017. Last year, he only played 12 games and had 108 targets. I can see him having another 1,000-yard season, and if I'm getting him at an RB2 value and can get high RB2 production out of him, I will take that.
Julian Edelman, he has been awesome without Gronkowski whenever Gronkowski's out. Well, guess what? Breaking news. Gronkowski's out forever now. So that's good news for Julian Edelman.
We'll see.
But also, Julian Edelman's 33 years old in what's turning into a run-heavy offense with Tom Brady's arm not being what it used to. N'Keal Harry was their first-round pick. And yes, Julian Edelman has made a name for himself in the playoffs and the Super Bowl. His regular seasons have not been that mind-blowing. Like, I know everyone's like, he's a Hall of Famer on that. Like, he's had 2 1,000-yard seasons. And when I say 1,000-yard seasons, it's like 1,000 yards. Like, it's 1,056 yards and 1,106 yards. In PPR, he's appealing in PPR more so than in a standard league. And the most touchdowns he's ever had is 7. So that's why I'm not as high on him as you are, Caleb, because everyone gets it. Last thing you see from last year is his playoff production, and he has historic numbers in the playoffs. His regular season sometimes leaves a little bit to be desired.
Yeah, I don't blame you there at all. I guess I just see with Tom Brady getting older, him relying on somebody like Julian Edelman even more. Alshon Jeffrey comes in at 22. We have him very close to the same spot. I'm not a big fan of Alshon Jeffrey. But Carson Wentz seems to be healthy. He needs a number 1 wide receiver, and that could be Alshon Jeffrey. as last year. He still had 92 receptions. He's had over 90 receptions for every year except for his first season. Last 2 seasons with Philadelphia have been lackluster, unfortunately, but he's had some decent touchdown production, so he can be a solid RB2 for you.
Yeah, like you just said, his last 2 seasons with Philly have not been that impressive. 65 receptions, a little over 800 yards. This first year, 57 receptions, 789 yards. Like, not exciting numbers. Just something else to keep in mind. Only 3 of his 7 seasons in the NFL has he played 16 games, so there's usually always something going on with him injury-wise. Never been super thrilled with him. Has never had a consistent connection with Wentz. Has been more successful with Foles, in my opinion, because Foles was more happy to throw it down the field. I think Wentz is more Ertz dependent, so I'm not a big fan of Jeffrey.
Yeah, we'll probably eliminate him off this list. Sammy Watkins is a curious fellow to me. Comes in at number 23 for us. Wes, you have him at 21. I have him at 24. Hard to say what's going to happen over there at Kansas City. Sammy Watkins has not been a phenomenal player for really his whole career. He had 1 season over 1,000 yards. His first 2 seasons were his best, and he's been very poor since then. Even with Kansas City last year, he only played 10 games, 40 receptions, 519 yards, 3 touchdowns. Can he be the RB or the wide receiver 1 on that team going into this year?
Side note, is it not ridiculous? It's been like a month and nothing's been done or said about Tyreek Hill. Like, I don't understand.
They take a long time with these investigations.
Like, they're investigating Ezekiel Elliott, like, slapping a security guard, which was stupid, but, like, I already heard stuff about that. That Tyreek Hill thing's been quiet. NFL's like, we're not getting involved, so whatever. Just whatever.
I mean, it's pretty serious. It's pretty serious, I guess, the way I look at it. He's already on the commissioner's exempt list.
I understand the Chiefs are being super cautious. Like, if something's false, like, they don't want to cut him, and, like, you know, the Chargers pick him up, and it turns out everything was falsified.
Right.
But I don't know. Yeah. Anyway, Sammy Watkins. One word for you, man. Health. He's healthy. I could see him ending the year as a top 15 wide receiver, to be honest with you. He's got the talent. He's always had the talent. I mean, the Bills gave up 2 first-round picks to trade up to get him a couple spots. He was great at Clemson. When he plays, he's good. He had some good games last year. He had a couple 100-yard games. He had a couple touchdowns, but story of his career, he missed, like, what'd you say, 5, 6 games, 7 games?
Wah, wah, wah.
Yeah, if this guy can stay healthy, he could be your number 1 receiver. At the very worst, your number 2 receiver if he's healthy. But if Oreos didn't have cream in the middle, Caleb, they'd just be a freaking cookie, just like any other cookie. And that's what Sammy Watkins. If he's going to get hurt. It's just a matter of time. So that's why he is so low on everyone's board, because it's the most obvious thing that you can.
Well, they're paying him $12 million this year, by the way.
Yeah, it's ridiculous.
They're paying him like they're wide receiver 1. So if he's healthy, you're right. I mean, Patrick Mahomes is going to get him the ball, so it's just hard to trust him.
Dude, they should just, like, put him in, like, a human-sized guinea pig cage and, like, not let him do anything. Just, like, no sudden movements. Just don't do anything. Don't pull a hamstring. No. Just calm down. Just relax until football starts. Like, don't do
one of those guys that's too powerful for his own body.
Yeah, it's a shame, though, because I think he could have had a pretty good career if he could have stayed healthy. But go on.
And not been drafted by the Bills.
Yeah, that's true.
Mr. Rod Christopher Godwin. It's his full name. I don't know why doesn't he go by Rod
Dude,
Godwin?
If my name was Rod, oh my God.
He comes in as our 24. You have him at 24. I have him at 23. I think everybody in Fantasy Universe is high on this guy. Not as high as his counterpart, but he could easily. He's on a team with a new head coach, obviously, that is all about throwing the ball and all about his wide receivers and nothing else in the world. He has come out and said that he looks at Godwin as a 100 reception target. He had 7 touchdowns last season. Flashed with some really big games and really great talent. I have a lot of confidence, and if you can get him as a wide receiver 24, that kind of ADP with high-level wide receiver 2 upside, I'm very happy with Rod Godwin.
Okay, Rod. I hope he's not a victim of people throwing him up the draft boards, man. Like, this is no secret that people are hot on this guy. Like, I was looking at his ADP on Fantasy Pros, number 21 receiver. He's flying up the draft boards. I really want him on my teams this year. I think he's going to have a great year, but I think someone's going to just reach for him and maybe get him in like the third round or something. And he's going to be really good. I just hope. I don't know. I just hope he's not getting, like, everyone is so hot on this guy. He's 842 yards last year, 7 touchdowns, 59 receptions. Bruce Arians coming in. All the pieces are in place for him to have a 1,200-yard season, 8 touchdowns, 100 receptions.
So is he being overinflated then? Like,
I'm afraid
or do you
he
think
is.
that it's almost appropriate at 24?
I don't know. I like my proof, man. I like my track records. And he does have a very nice, steady growth from his rookie season to his sophomore season. And we all know the third year it's kind of the third year for the wide receiver to break out. I could see a huge breakout. So, yeah, I don't know if he's going to get to my team because I feel like someone's going to reach for him. I like him a lot, though. And if I can get him on my team as a low-end number 2 receiver, I will be doing thumbs up to myself in the mirror.
You would. You're disgusting.
I get you filth.
Surprisingly, DJ Moore actually comes in as our consensus 25. He rounds it out, kicking out people like Allen Robinson and other guys. DJ Moore, you're 26, my 22. Why am I high on him? Christian McCaffrey is going to be the most targeted player on that team, for sure. Second most, I definitely see is DJ Moore. In his rookie season, he had 82 targets. I only see progression. I definitely he can't get worse than 2 touchdowns in my book, or 788 yards as a number 1 wide receiver, and that's what he'll be. Even if Cam Newton is not completely healthy, which the expectations is for him to be very healthy, I expect DJ Moore to be able to catch 80 receptions, 6 touchdowns at the least, nearly 1,000 yards. And not only that, he also rushed 13 times for 172 yards last season. And that adds that little bit of boost every game where he might have a 40-yard gadget play that gets you 4 points. So that's why I like DJ Moore, especially back here. You're back getting him really as the first wide receiver 3 at this point. I like that in my player because he has a lot of upside to me of where you're going to get him and where you're going to draft him.
Yeah, he started picking up in the middle of last year, I guess, just getting more comfortable with everything. And yeah, when Newton went out, he suffered a little bit. He did have some dud games, a couple 1-reception games, three 1-reception games, a couple 2-reception games, but he was a rookie. Cut him some slack, Caleb. Don't be so hard on the dude. He's just learning the offense. More games than not, he got a couple rushing attempts. I think he ended the year with around 13 here, it says. 172 yards rushing, as we said before. Bonus alert. So, yeah, I like his potential. Unfortunately, it depends on Cam Newton and his health. It is a run first. You got Christian McCaffrey, who's going to catch over 100 balls. You're going to have a running quarterback, a good running back. So, we'll see. I think where he's ranked, where you and me put him, is pretty appropriate. I could see him definitely beating that ADP by the end of the year, but there's a lot of factors in Carolina. It's with Cam Newton being so inconsistent with his play, everyone else on that team other than probably Christian McCaffrey is going to suffer.
Thank you for that. We like DJ Moore, and that finishes the wide receivers next week.
I'd just like to see a little more of him, Caleb, if you catch my drift.
I don't get it. Like the most stuff. Okay.
Yeah. Back to the Orioles.
Next week, we're going to talk about quarterbacks. Get to look forward to that. We'll see what we get through there. Now let's get into 2 more teams to evaluate. Take a few minutes on both. And we're going to start on the Houston Texans. It's team evaluation time.
Let's evaluate these teams.
Team evaluation team. Evaluation.
Line them up. We'll tell you what they're gonna do this year. Ow!
Houston Texans.
That hurt. I can't.
Give us a quick 60 seconds on the Houston Texans.
God's sake, 60 seconds.
Ready, set, go.
Okay, so free agency, they signed Deshaun Gibson, safety. Pair him with Justin Reed. Good backfield or good secondary. Also had Bradley. I can't even read my own writing. Bradley Robbie from the Denver Broncos. 1 year, $10 million, prove it deal. Very nice. AJ McCarron, 1 year, $3 million. You got Deshaun Watson back there. He's going to go down at some point. You finally got a decent backup quarterback. Most of their signings were low risk. Very nice free agency. They made up and balanced that up with in my opinion, pretty rough draft. Titus Howard, project at offensive tackle. It was a reach. It was a desperation pick. Eagles total D move by trading ahead of him and getting Andre Dillard, who worst kept secret in the NFL. Texans loved him, but that's on the Texans for not being more aggressive to get him. The only fantasy noteworthy pick they made in the draft was a tight end, Waring. He's a good route runner, third-round pick. I could see him starting by the middle of the year. Okay, Caleb, I got to watch and avoid. Who am I going to watch? How about Kiki? Do you miss me? 4 of the 7 games last year, he had 7+ targets, which equated to around 12 to 17 PPR points per contest. I like this guy a lot. With Will Fuller's injury history, going after a guy who's being drafted around Gus Edwards, Kyle Rudolph, and Demaryius Thomas, I'll take him in a heartbeat. You want to avoid any running back on that roster? Basically, Lamar Miller. Lamar Miller, he had 4 100-yard games last year. Oh, yeah, getting excited for that. Don't. He had also 4 games like this. 10 carries, 10 yards. 3 carries, 8 yards. 12 carries, 21 yards. 14 carries, 33 yards. Oh, did he make up for it with receptions? No, he did not. 25 catches on the year. Yuck. Was that 60 seconds?
Think there is huge. It was like 2 minutes and 47. No, I don't know. There is huge sleeper potential with Deontay Foreman. And like you said, in the draft, the one thing you didn't mention is they did take 2 offensive tackles in their first 3 picks within the first 2 rounds. So they're bolstering.
I don't even like Deontay Foreman. As much as I think he has the skill to be a good back, as much as the Texans want him to take the reins, dude can't stay healthy.
Yeah, just avoid the backfield there. But so quarterback-wise, the draftable quarterback, late round value on running backs, arguably the number 1 wide receiver in the draft with Will Fuller back there as well. If Will Fuller was healthy, a very valuable secondary wide receiver. As for their expectations, by the way, I'm not going to fail you this week.
Yay!
Their Texans line is at 8.5. What do you think?
This one was hard, man. The Colts was easy. This one was tough.
That's what she said.
This one was hard. Oh, I got you. It's a sexual reference.
Ha!
I think they're going over. I just the improvements they made on the defense in free agency and the improvements they made to the line on the offense, I definitely see them go over 8.5. Book it.
Yeah. I'm going to also take you on that. We're going to agree, I think, on a lot of these. I think the Texans are good enough that they made the right improvements to protect Deshaun Watson and help that offense be more prolific this year. So I am feeling very good about them. I'm not feeling as good about them, though, as I am the Indianapolis Colts. That's our next team to talk about. I'll do a quick rundown on them.
Give it to me in 60 seconds.
As I have to. 60 seconds. You count it down.
1.
Let's just start with Andrew Luck. Arguably, a lot of people are taking him as the number 1 quarterback overall over Patrick Mahomes this year because Andrew Luck has easily one of the best offensive lines in the league. He's going to be protected. He finally came back last season and performed extremely well. They have a coach now for their 2nd year in a row. So they're learning the system. They have the system down. They have a great backup quarterback. So if something does happen and he goes down, he's set. In their running backs, they have Marlon Mack, Nyheim Hines, Jordan Wilkins. They have a fantastic running back core. The wide receivers, they brought in a ton of guys. They drafted guys like Paris Campbell, Zach Pascal, or they didn't draft Zach Pascal, sorry. They're getting Deion Kane back, who last year, before he got injured, was expected to be the number 2 behind T.Y. Hilton. They're going to have a ton of weapons and targets. So Andrew Luck is a very tasty quarterback to go after, along with T.Y. Hilton.
That's so weird.
They also have an unbelievable tight end core. I'm not that huge on Eric Ebron, but he's still valuable. Jack Doyle, Mo Alley Cox is a giant. They have such a powerful offensive attack. And as such, I see them being very successful in the 2019 season across the board, no matter who you draft. Can you overdraft on these guys? Absolutely. You can overdraft anybody. But I don't think there's a more...
Except maybe Saquon Barkley.
Right, except him. But I don't think there's... And I don't know if there's any other team in the league where at every position you can know that you're drafting value at each one of those positions. So that's my take.
A very tasty take, indeed.
Yeah. What I like is a bunch of tasty treats.
It's definitely
go out into the sea and have ourselves some tasty treats. Sorry. This is an Always Sunny reference that wasn't even right.
Well, yeah, it was bad. So you got one thing right. Indianapolis is a treat buffet this year when it comes to fantasy. Let me just get my wind. Frank Reich, big fan. Ever since Josh McDaniels screwed the Colts, I have totally liked this guy, and he has proven the Colts that guy should have been their first pick. He's awesome. He wants to be a top 5 rushing offense this year, which makes Marlon Mack a little more appealing. But here's the kicker. Since 1968, they've only been in the top 5 of rushing 5 times. It's kind of a crowded backfield. Marlon Mack, they signed Spencer Ware, you got Hines, you got Jordan Wilkins, but I think at the end of the day, Marlon Mack would definitely be a running back 1. So I like where they're going with this running offense. Also, the defense ain't too shabby either. Top 10 in rushing defense and points allowed last year, and they've done nothing but try to improve that. How, you ask, Caleb? Shut up and listen. Justin Houston, 2 years, $24 million. He's their best rusher since Robert Mathis. 78.5 career sacks. The only thing he's got to worry about is adjusting from the Chiefs 3-4 to the Colts 4-3, but I think that's the pass rusher they've been searching for all these years. Devin Funchess, under the radar signing. 1 year, $13 million. He's only missed 3 games in 4 seasons, so he's a durable kind of guy, which seems like we've been talking all day, or all podcast, is kind of a rarity. Big target in the red zone, which is what they're looking for, because T.Y. only had 7 receptions inside the 10 last year. He's not who they're looking for. And just to put that in perspective, T.Y.'s 7 receptions inside the 10, Michael Thomas led the league with 24 inside the 10. So T.Y. Hilton is definitely can stretch the field. Inside the 10, you're looking for those big targets like Ebron and Funchess. Okay, let's go to the draft. Rock Ya-Sin from Temple, cornerback, arguably the top cornerback in the draft. He was the second one taken. Great ball skills. Will start from day one. The guy that I like, and I don't even care who knows it, Paris Campbell, a receiver out of Ohio State. His potential is as high as anyone at a skill position in this draft. Little raw, needs to work on route running a little bit, but he's in a perfect situation, and he's going to fit in the slot. Awesome in that offense. Okay, Caleb, let me take another breath and tell you a little bit about the guy I want you to avoid, and I think you'd avoid him anyway. Eric Ebron.
Yes, I'm very happy with that.
Okay, I thought that would please you. So
he agreed with me on something.
Yes, friends. You got, like I said, Funchess and Campbell entering the picture. Okay, that takes away a little bit from him. Touchdowns unsustainable, I believe, from what he was doing last year. A healthy Jack Doyle is going to be a kick to his crotch, man. Without Jack Doyle, when he was hurt, Eric Ebron almost averaged 8 targets. With Jack Doyle playing, take away his one big game, he averaged not even 4 targets a game. So if Jack Doyle stays healthy, Eric Ebron he might be a waiver pickup for a fill-in tight end, maybe. Touchdown dependent for sure. The guy I want you to buy or watch. Paris Campbell, man. He's not going to get 1,000 yards this year, but I think you can get him for a really good value. He's a speedster. 4.31 in the 40, man. You have Hilton getting all the attention. You have Luck, who I agree, man. With Tyreek Hill, I think Luck passes Mahomes as his number 1 quarterback. Last year, he was coming back from injury. he started hitting his stride. He had a great year last year. Now he's coming back 100% healthy into this season with more weapons than he's ever had, a defense better than the Colts have had in a long time. So look out for Luck. He was almost my watch, but I thought that was a little too obvious. He's going to dominate short yardage, man. That's what he did in Ohio State. That's what he's going to do in Indianapolis. Don't look for him to be the T.Y. Hilton role. He's going to be almost like a Julian Edelman. What made him great at Ohio State was yards after the catch. He's very shifty. They used him on jet sweeps, stuff like that, so I could see him being used a little bit in some trickery, maybe get a little bonus rushing yards with the guy. Heck, I don't know. But I will keep an eye on him, and I advise you do the same.
I like it a lot. You're way better at keeping all the facts together on these teams than I am.
It's easy when you make them. Go ahead.
But I'm not a big Colts fan by any means, but I think they are set to bring a ton of fantasy value. So their over-under is set at 9.5, and I think we both can agree they're going to go over that. Yeah. I can easily see them taking 11, 12 wins on the season. And giving the Patriots a run for their money this year.
I agree. I think this is the first year that the Colts are legitimately contenders to go to the Super Bowl. I know years before they've met the Patriots, and it was sort of those foregone conclusions that, okay, they're going to New England. New England's going to wipe them all over the field, man, and then wipe them with toilet paper and say, get back to Indianapolis, you dirty, filthy animals. But this year, the difference is Andrew Luck's not just thrown to T.Y. Hilton and a bunch of no-namers. He's thrown to a bunch of weapons. He's got, for the first time, a pretty good running back, man, and some good receiving backs behind that guy. And the defense is rock solid. I mean, the Colts' Achilles heel has always been, even with Peyton Manning, other than Dwight Freeney and Robert Mathis, I mean, it's a pretty weak defense. That's why Peyton Manning had to throw for 4,000 or 5,000 yards, because they were always throwing the ball because they were high-scoring games. You finally have a defense. You can implement the running game a little more now because hopefully that defense holds. I'm excited about the Colts. That division is going to be theirs, man, by week 11. I think the Texans are going to be good. I don't think they're going to challenge the Colts for that division. And I could see the Colts in the AFC Championship game. With the Patriots, I sure as H hope not.
Well, guess what? Next week, we're going to talk about the Patriots. We're going to talk about the Patriots and the Bills next week. That wraps up this week.
Oh, for God's sake, man. We didn't even keep it under an hour. I thought we did pretty fast.
That's why I was like trying to rush it. I'm like, man, we're not actually any quicker than we have been. So.
I know. It's that receivers, man. We did a lot of receivers.
Yeah. We're all learning, everybody. Certainly, if you have suggestions, or if you're fine with the format the way it is, with the length of time that it is, let us know. Then we won't worry so much about cutting it back. Next week, we're going to go through quarterbacks 1 through 8.
Ooh, what an odd number.
On the season, we only plan to go through maybe 15 or 16.
Or 100.
Next 2 weeks. Or 100 quarterbacks. We're going to go through quarterbacks in high school currently.
With how you view quarterbacks, prospects. I'm surprised you're not like, we're going over the first 3 and then just giving up.
We're going to go over, but we're not going to go over any of the number 1, 2, 3. We're going to go over number 8, 9, and 10.
We're going to go over the 3 quarterbacks on the Dolphins roster.
Yes. Tons of value there. We are also going to talk about, as said, New England Patriots and Buffalo Bills, break those teams down. And, of course, if you have questions, as we had today, we're happy to break them down. And any cookie-related propaganda that you need to throw in there.
This is true. We will accept any non-football-related questions, just life questions in general. We're going to turn this over as more of a talk show. Just kidding. That was a total psych. But yeah, cookie questions, anything, whatever you feel.
Like, whatever you're feeling. If I could get a new host, if anybody out there, at first I thought I was going to be the one to go, but if we could get rid of Wes, that would be great.
Oh, you just make me want to make another pun. That's all it's doing, Caleb.
Listen, I don't know what I'm doing with my hands. You mentioned a hot dog at the beginning, and I just haven't been able to stop.
Yep, let's make this a disgusting sandwich of disgusting pun, and a lot of football in the middle.
I'm just going to say thanks. Good night, everybody. Sorry for the late podcast this week. We will be back on schedule probably next week. And, as it goes, we might even decide as the season comes to, we get into draft season, we might add a short second episode. I know I say short and it will never happen, but as the season goes on, we may decide to do that. Leave us some feedback, what you think, if you're happy with where we are. We appreciate it. We appreciate you. I appreciate you, Wes.
Dude, I appreciate you, Caleb. I don't care what anybody says.
Thanks.
Freaking bros for life, man. And enemies for life as well.
That's the way I'd prefer it. I like working from the bottom up. So.
Listen, that means
Thanks,
two
everybody.
things. I just want to give these guys a personal guarantee that next week we will be under 45 minutes, or else my name isn't
Westport.
Thank you.
Okay. I was like, do I have to answer? Should I answer? This has been a long silence. Okay, Westport.
This is Caleb and George signing off.
Bye, everyone.